First thing I want to say, I want to extend our thoughts and prayers to Jeff Snyder, who just recently lost his mother. I can't imagine that pain that he must be feeling right now. But Schmoeville, Jeff, I don't know if you're listening to this, but Schmoeville is with you, buddy. Forgive me for this poor transition. But Jay, this week was Schmoeville Appreciation Week, at least for me, privately, in my own room, because I think it was at the end of last week or at the beginning of this week, I was listening to Dan Le Batard, as I usually do, and maybe Christian's favorite player, favorite Yankee, Mark Teixeira, he was the guest, and he was on there supposedly because he's a huge movie buff, which I was not aware of. Maybe that's something that Christian knows, being a Yankee himself. But Mark Teixeira came on to talk about movies, and not only did they have one of the most lame discussions about movies ever. You know how we talked about how it gets frustrating to talk to certain people about movies. They asked him what his top 3 favorite movies were, and I swear on my life that I guessed all 3 of them before he even spoke. And I was so annoyed, and I recalled this little Facebook group, this online community called Schmoeville, that I love so much, where it's my corner of the internet where we can all talk about movies and have our own unique takes and not just claim that The Godfather is the only movie that exists. Anyway, I just thought that was a pretty funny and interesting moment.
It sounds like you have the Teixeira algorithm, much like I have the Ryan Snelling algorithm. I've got it locked away in a safe. I mean, how do you think you would do on the Schmoedown?
I don't know. I'd be curious. I want to maybe that's like a little tip for Christian. Like maybe he can look into getting Mark Teixeira, because he is retired now, I believe. So maybe he could come on the show. Damn nice guy.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You like that?
Yeah, he's a good guy. He was on an episode of Entourage.
He good guy.
So anyway,
he real good guy.
His 3 movies, by the way, were Godfather Part 2, Caddyshack, and Top Gun. And I was so disappointed that I guessed them and got them correctly, because and that's why I had to post. I don't remember. I don't know if it was in Schmoeville or Sight and Sound. I posted, please just tell me your favorite movie isn't something that I can guess, isn't something that's in the top 25 best movies of all time, according to AFI or whoever the hell is doing that list. But anyway, Jay, what are your top 3 favorite movies?
We've done this. We did this on Sight and Sound. No, I think it's always. I agree. I think it's always interesting. I would have hoped that he would have had like some ridiculously stereotypical. You all right over there? Yeah. Just sound like you were having a cat baby. I was hoping you would have some sort of stereotypical baseball.
What?
Yeah, you made some noises. I was hoping you would have some stereotypical baseball top 3, like Field of Dreams,
no,
A League of Their Own, and Angels in the Outfield, or Rookie of the Year.
They eventually asked him what his favorite baseball movie was.
Of course they did.
But
of course,
yeah.
because that's the type of show that is. Anyways, what else is going on, buddy? You feeling all right today?
I was just going to say, I wish that you were there. That way I could have proof that I was able to guess them. But you weren't there, sadly, because I listened to this and guessed it all while I was taking a shower.
Yeah, you know what? I'll take your word for it. Ryan Snelling, not the type of person to fib. I don't really put that in your category.
Why have you asked me if I'm okay today? Twice.
Just making sure, man. Just making sure. I'm a genuine guy. I just want to make sure everybody's doing fantastic. Look, I think it's a weird week because we're coming off of a nice week, a nice successful week. Thank you for all the listens. At least the only way that we can tell is via YouTube.
Yeah,
and I think that's great. Unfortunately,
we missed you.
Yeah, we did. We missed all you people. Where have you been? Legitimate question. We're polling. Where have you been? Why haven't you been hanging out?
I can only understand the trends when the live show isn't live. Then I get it. But other than that, sometimes there have been weeks where I've been extremely confused.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, and I'm sure we'll get into it in just a little bit, though. Sometimes we have weeks where we don't have a ton to talk about. So it is kind of a bummer that we got all these people back, and then we're going to go into an episode where we might not have quite as much to talk about.
Oh, you mean like this week? Shout out to, I think it was Parker, our boy Parker. I believe it was him, who said that he loved how our show starts out this way every week. So I appreciate that. That's something that was made consciously. That decision was made consciously. So I appreciate that. Now let's hear the thing. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to After Schmoe. I'm your host, Ryan Snelling, and I am joined by Jaye Williams. What up, my man?
That's me, J to the A to the Y to the E, fresh off of a Taco Bell visit where I did get a quesadilla. Not a big fan of their quesadillas. They put too much cheese in it.
Like the cheese sauce or the cheese?
I mean, I think it's just cheese. Like there's just too much cheese.
I like a lot of cheese.
I don't need all that cheese.
I like a lot of cheese.
I like the sauce. I do like the sauce. Do you know this about me? Do you know I'm a sauce guy, that I like sauces?
I did not know that. I have another friend named Eric that nobody knows, but he hates sauce, and I've always thought that was a strange label. Like the entire group of sauce he doesn't care for.
Yeah, like when you say, "Oh, are you a picky eater? What types of foods do you not like?" You don't just say, "I don't like drink." Like what?
Yeah.
What? You don't like a whole category of things?
But at the same time, and this is kind
of
of a contradiction, but this is also equally as weird. He only accepts mustard as a topping for a hot dog. He thinks that is the classic.
I can believe that. I get that.
That's not the default topping. I would say that ketchup goes on a hot dog before mustard does.
There's a lot of hot dog purists out there that say that that's the only thing you should put on a hot dog. Obviously, it's a regional dish. You know, if you're in Chicago, they throw a pickle on there. I've never really understood that. I don't like that. I don't want a pickle near my hot dog.
What's relish? You don't like relish?
No. Relish is. I feel like relish was made up by the devil to put on hot dogs to confuse us.
The devil's relish.
This conversation is relishing.
Yeah. Did you watch the first episode of Epic Happy Hours?
Is that what it's called? Epic Happy Hours?
Yeah. You give Josh Macuga a traveling food show. What do you think he's going to name it?
I thought it was just called Happy Hour.
No, it's Epic Happy Hours.
Oh, okay. Wait, okay. I am legitimately confused because when all this happened, I saw a bunch of people that said that they saw the first episode like right after he announced it. When did the first episode air?
He announced it, like in the middle of that week, and it came on that very Saturday.
Okay, so I don't have cable.
Yes.
I cut the cord. It's 2017.
Yes.
Everyone needs to get with the program. I couldn't get with the program because I checked every outlet. I went to the Travel Channels app. I went to Hulu, and neither of them had it.
Yeah.
So I don't know where the hell I'm supposed to watch this.
You can buy it on iTunes probably if you want to do that.
I mean, I just had to buy Mr. Robot Season Pass. I don't know. I'll wait till the reviews come. How about that? When Josh Macuga follows you or I on Twitter, I'll buy it on iTunes. How about that?
I want to stay on this topic, but the reason why I brought this up is because he went to a place, a gourmet hot dog place, and they had like hundreds of different toppings, and Macuga got Fruit Loops on his hot dog. That's not a lie.
That's great. I like that. I enjoy that. Well, I don't enjoy it, but I enjoy the fact that he did it. You know, I think the thing with Macuga that I've realized, especially with doing the show, I don't understand how. So I think it's safe to say that TV Talk is one of the most strenuous shows to maintain because of how much TV they actually have to watch.
Yes.
When the hell did he have time to watch all of this television, plan a wedding, do the is it Outlanders? What's that show he was doing the after show for? What's that show called?
He was doing the I thought he was doing the Hillbilly Sons of Anarchy after show
whatever that
got canceled.
Whatever that's called. He did it get canceled?
He's also doing he also hosts like the sort of what Sasha does for FX. He hosts like the movie night for WGN now.
Okay.
Right.
Well, that and obviously the Josh Macuga show. I mean, when has he had the time to do this, to legitimately travel around?
I have no idea. It's like he must have done it on the weekends. I mean, I remember like on Wednesday nights, and there were a few weeks where Macuga was just a no-show on the Schmoes Know Show. So this had to have been filmed before TV Talk went daily, without a doubt. I mean, there's just no way, because he's pretty much been there, with the exception of the last 2 weeks. So I have no clue. I also think it's weird how like that's just not a part of of what Macuga is all about. Like, I haven't heard anyone around him talk about that show and the fact that he has it. He waited until the very last minute to promote it. I just think it's very strange how it's like it doesn't really seem like it's that big of a deal, even though it's arguably the biggest deal when talking about any of these personalities. And you said it yourself that Macuga was going to be a star after this. So I'm very curious. I want to learn a lot more about that. So if someone listening to this right now can point me in the direction maybe he was on, I don't know, maybe he talked about it on Josh Macuga show or something, and you can point me in the right direction. But I just think it's so weird how that's like almost a nothing of a conversation that they're having over there right now.
Right, yeah, and I don't want to like diminish in anything with this discussion. I think it is a reminder that these are people, creative individuals who are honing a craft and who might have bigger ideas and bigger dreams, and they're on the go, they're on the move, doing other things. And that for some people, maybe Collider or Schmoes in general isn't their final destination. I remember hearing Cobster talk about like how he would love to work on more movies and this and that. Obviously, we love everyone. We love everyone that's involved. We want them to stay right where they are. But if they have dreams and aspirations, this is California, where do they say it's where dreams are made? I don't know. Whatever. But what dreams may come. And I think that I think that it's just a reminder that, people have things that they want to do, and I respect that.
I remember, like, when I was first learning about Mark and Christian, I found like a hosting reel of Christian Harloff's, and it cut to a clip of him hosting like something on Spike, and I was like, oh my god, this guy's big time. And I think it's funny because, like Ellis used to do like TV commercials. He did one for Carfax that I found on YouTube. Probably everybody knows about that. And I remember seeing those and thinking, oh my god, these guys are famous. He also did like some MTV like movie award commercials, I believe. And because ever since I first saw Ellis,
no, that was Topher Grace.
Oh, okay. Ever since I first saw Ellis, in general, I remember always thinking that he looked familiar. And then I later found out he kind of did some acting, but there's no way in hell that I remembered that Carfax commercial and thought he was familiar from that. So I still don't know where I first saw Ellis. But anyway, I just think it's funny how when I first found those guys, I thought they were big time because of those things. And as time has gone on, and like you said, getting with the times, the fact that the internet and YouTube is where people are watching TV instead of having cable, it's funny how they became big time for being on YouTube. Like, that's the bigger platform. I think that's really fascinating.
Yeah, I agree. It's, we've talked before about how Mark has this other job, this passion project of I guess his true calling of him being a stand-up comedian. And I don't know, it's just, I think sometimes because we are so inundated with so much Collider content and Schmoes content, and we really keep up to date with them. I mean, we're paying attention to them almost every single day. And to know that they're doing other things just is a little bit strange, I think, to some people. Not that it's bad. Obviously, yeah, make your money, get your thing. But
get your thing.
I don't know. It's just strange. When I first found out about Mark and Christian and you were getting into all this, my first thought was, I wonder how well they know Joe Rogan and Brendan Schaub.
That's so weird.
And I still wonder to this day.
Because they were your Mark and Christian originally? Is that why?
Well, I mean, just in general, I mean, it might be the first question still to this day. Like when I see either of them in person, when I see Mark again, I'm going to say, how well do you know Brian Callen? He's going to be like, well,
I'm sure Ellis knows him for sure.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Especially because he's at the Comedy Store all the time. Speaking of, this is actually a good transition. I know we're not getting into Schmoes quite yet, but so we talked last week about how Mark was in Cincinnati and we had thought about going, but we didn't because it was sort of late notice. I need to be honest about something. I need to be completely upfront. I was sitting in bed on like a Friday night and I was on Twitter and I saw that Mark was at the Rusty Bucket, which is where you and I think we might have like had dinner when we went up there and hung out with him the first time.
I think we went to the Wendy's.
No, we went to the Rusty Bucket. It was legitimately right next door. And he was posting like, "Hey, I'm up here if anybody wants to hang out." And I swear to God, I felt bad. Like I felt really bad because, and I could be completely off base here, but I wonder if a part of him was like, oh man, this is going to be nice. I'm going to get to hang out with Ryan and Jay. And we were just no-shows. I mean, we legitimately stood him up. But whose fault is that? Talk me down from
I don't think, well, for one, I don't think there's any way that is the case. For one, because I think Ellis is totally fine being by himself at the few times that he gets to be by himself. He also happens to love just going and being at chain restaurants. So, well, I guess that's not a chain restaurant. But regardless, I think he likes that and appreciates that time with himself. Also, he barely even remembered to mention to us that he was going there in the first place. And lastly, he didn't text us at all weekend. He didn't ask, "Hey, are you coming up tonight?" There was none of that. There was no exchange. I think he was.
That's
fine.
A Jay Williams move, though. That is a Jay Williams move. Like, oh, somebody should be doing this, but they're not. Instead of me like reaching out to them, "Hey, where are you?" I would stay silent so that they would feel bad about it, just like I felt bad about it. That's 100% something I would do.
I think you just wanted to go. You felt bad about it later because you were hoping to meet Ash Crossan.
Absolutely. I still don't know if that was 100% confirmed. Was that confirmed? Did we confirm that she was actually in Ohio?
I just took your word for it. She could have been doing that, you know, that how I make that joke that I just say that I'm on my way to places when I'm really not.
Right.
Is there a chance that it could have been like that? Explain it to people so that they know what you're talking about. At least what you think you're talking about anyway.
So first of all, I'm in love with Ash Crossan. That's really the first part you need to know. I think she's just fantastic. I'm a big fan. Followed her on all social media. She's very entertaining. I highly recommend the follow. Where was I with that? Oh yeah. So anyways, so she Mark texted out this cry for help. This, "Hey, I'm hanging out if anybody wants to hang out with me. Ryan and Jay." And then she answered and was like, "Hey, are you in Cincinnati?" And he was like, "Well, yeah, I am." I don't know. I can't do a good Mark impression, but
just
she was
be
like,
loud.
"Oh my God, I'll be there in a second. I'll be there in a second." So I thought to myself, am I missing out on the Ellis Crossan experience right now? And then that's when I got bummed out. Like I thought about what could have been.
See, there you go.
But we could have recorded an After Schmoe and a Sight and Sound episode. We could have gone back to the comedy apartment or whatever it's called, the comedy condo.
Yeah. That thing that I didn't know what it was when I first went. I get really self-conscious asking Ellis to be on a podcast. Like, hey, every time we get together, we're going to do a podcast or we're going to make a video. I'm kind of self-conscious of that. But then again, he gets it because he's a personality, and I think he gets it. But anyway, two things. I had an interaction with Ellis, and I had an interaction with Ash Crossan that I want to talk about, and then we'll get into the live show. First, my interaction with Ellis. I really wish, Jay, you know what I wish? I wish I had the opportunity to podcast with Christian Harloff and or Mark Ellis. I would just love to have a conversation so we can talk about things, strip away what we do, strip away everything that we know about each other, and just have a raw original conversation with each other. I would love to do that. And it kind of...
You don't even care if microphones are involved.
Right. And I got a little bit of that this week. I got to talk to Ellis because I'm fascinated with comedy. You know this. I love stand-up comedy, and I love learning about the history of comedy. I just love it as a topic. I think it's fascinating. I was talking to him a little bit about jokes when it comes to Harvey Weinstein and like what's appropriate, when it's not, when should a comedian apologize. And it was just a really fascinating conversation that I had with him. And I really, really wish that I had it recorded. And maybe one day we'll have it again, but I thought it was just really interesting. The second thing with Ash Crossan, I am becoming a big fan of hers as well. I tweeted out at her earlier in the week. Following her on Twitter is a different experience than what it's been like to watch her on Jedi Council, because
it legitimately is like two different channels that you're watching.
And so I tweeted that out at her. Like, it's one thing to see her on Jedi Council, it's another to follow her. She didn't know what that meant, so I explained it. I was like, look, you just need to unleash yourself on Jedi Council. Let your freak flag fly, if you will. And she gave me a fist bump and loved that I was starting that movement. And then I was like, yeah, tell Christian to let you out of your straitjacket or something like that. And then she responded and was like, well, Christian doesn't censor what I say. And like, she just got like really...
Don't you hate that? Okay, time out.
She got real serious for a second.
Time out. First of all, Christian, I know you're listening to this. Please don't isolate this and send it to Ash Crossan because I care about her very deeply. But my point, don't you hate that when like people take, not necessarily people take things the wrong way on social media. Obviously, that is a very broad like topic to discuss. But yeah. I feel like the people who are detached, like her, or if we were talking to Perry or Cobster or RB3 or whoever it was, it's like that they lose the ability to joke around because they perceive you as, and I know that this is fine, but they perceive you as a fan. And so it's almost like they've constantly got this guard up, like, communicate with me like you would a human being. Like, don't respond with the emoji. I don't respond to anybody with the emoji. Okay?
Right.
I don't. Well, that's not necessarily true. I think I've done praying hands to people before because I'm busy or something like that. But it's just like one of those things. Like, I'm a human being. God damn it! Like, just you don't have to be so defensive about it.
I've said it a lot on this show, and it's due to the distance between us and them. I guarantee everyone over there, every single person who is aware of who I am, who's had interactions with me. RB3 might be a great example. I get their perceptions of, well, their perception of you might be spot on, but their perception of me is way off. It's just way off, and I know for a fact.
Is it?
Yes.
In what way?
Because
I'm legitimately fascinated by this.
I've just never not had a weird conversation with all of those people because there's just a disconnect. Like, they don't know when I'm joking. They don't hear my cadence. Like, I've probably said a ton of things that I thought I understood or thought were funny, but it doesn't come across to them because, you know, I have my own language and I say things the way that I say things, and it doesn't really translate to text. And you can understand that. You and I have had those kind of disconnects.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a thing. It's Ryan Snelling's a terrible texter, which is both a bit and real life. But you know what? I think as our relationship has grown, I think you've become better at it. You know, but I agree. I think it's more or less the psychology of people like that who have tens of thousands of followers trying to sift through all of them. Like, it is funny to me that I think to myself, like, okay, Christian follows me, and then I'll tweet something, and then I'm like, I wonder if Christian just saw that. Like when I'm tweeting about soccer or something like that, and if he's just like, who's this asshole? It's just strange. It's a strange phenomenon to think about.
Yeah. Speaking of people who... I'm shocked that people like William Bibbiani follow me on Twitter. I'm kind of self-conscious of that because I hope that I'm smart enough for Bibbiani to follow. But I want to transition. This is the last thing I want to talk about before Schmoes. And forgive me, I'm going to be bringing up everything that went on with Signor and Screen Junkies here again. But I think it was Bibiani that posted in Schmoeville, or maybe he posted on his personal. He posted it on Facebook, and I'm paraphrasing, but he just brought up the point. I think due to the Thor Ragnarok screening, he said that he can tell that the Schmoes have taken over LA. So, since this podcast began, we've been talking about Collider and Schmoes Know's growth, and kind of brushed on comparisons with Screen Junkies. But here and now, I want to talk about this. Is there a chance, is there a possibility, do you see any way that Schmoes Know and Collider will benefit greatly to everything going on over here? And I want to have this conversation, and Christian and Mark might not like it, and they probably don't even think like this, but that's okay. I'm also a fan of this. I'm on the outside, so I think I can have the conversation that they would never have here. But, and again, I'm not even sure that what he said is in direct response to everything going on over there, but I'm kind of bridging this gap. I'm curious what your thoughts are. Like, are we just going to see in exponential growth here while Screen Junkies is down? Because right now, this is my perception. Right now, a lot of people, not even the majority. I'm not going to say the majority of Screen Junkies fans are over them, because they haven't. When you look at the amount of subscribers that they lost, it doesn't even compare to the amount that they still have. It's a very small fraction. But right now, the perception is Screen Junkies is down on their luck. And
not uploading content right now.
Right. Well, yeah. The perception is bad with Andy Signor, and they're also down on their luck because there are so many other great employees that are over there trying to figure it out, and they're scrambling right now, and they're still not up. But the perception then, when you look at the Schmoes, that's the place. For one, it's the one that's in motion. It's the operating company right now. But at the same time, their perception is people, the outsiders like Joel that come in and feel like it's a safe space. The perception is that Schmoes and Collider is the safe space. They are the I'm trying to think of the word I want. The positive light in all this. And I'm wondering if we will see these channels benefit from this.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think all we can really examine is facts. And of course, there's crossover between both. Of course, there's a huge disparity between what Screen Junkies has and what Collider and Schmoes both have as well. But with that being the case, I think one thing that is unfortunate is the fact that how many people aren't being able to work right now. And obviously there are people that are employed by Screen Junkies, but they also, I'm sure, use a lot of contract labor as well, whether it be freelancers or just hired guns, quote unquote, so to speak. And it's unfortunate because there's just not enough time and content for. I'm sure Collider and Schmoes both would love to just, say, hey, we'd love to have you over here and do this, but there's just not enough content to go around. Obviously, there's a financial thing that goes along with that as well. It's also a sort of a strange time within the movie landscape as well, because we're in like this weird limbo period of waiting for the fall movies to really, really get going. Of course, we just had Blade Runner. So I think it's hard to say really. I'm sure it exists. I'm sure what you're speaking towards 100% exists, but to what level? I just think we're sort of, I don't know, man. I feel like Collider is also a little bit in limbo right now, not in a negative way, but we don't know when we were talking about this off air. We don't know when this move is going to happen. I don't know how much planning and prepping has to go on behind the scenes for that. We also don't know what their slate is for 2018 in terms of new things, new content. They just had Jeremy Jahns leave. There's so much unsureness that I'm not going to say that they're actively thinking like, how do we take advantage of this? Because I don't think it's like that. It's a sensitive time right now. It's not time for that. Well, and that's just me more speaking in general terms.
Right.
But it's just, not only is it not the right time, or not only is it not the right time to do that, but it's also not it wouldn't be a good time for Collider to do something like that, in my opinion.
I'm surprised that they haven't had some of those guys over to like guest on Movie Talk.
Right. Well, think about the connection point for a lot of them. Not that Mark and Riley and Ken and Macuga aren't connections for them, but Christian is that pivot point for a lot of people. He has a lot of those connections and whatnot. He just hasn't been there.
Right. That's true. So anyway, that's the last thing I wanted to talk about. You do have a history lesson. Do you want to do that now, or do you want to do it after the live show recap?
Let's do the history lesson. Let's take a quick break.
Okay.
And we'll get into it. I will set it up just real quick. This is a longer history lesson, probably the longest one we've ever done.
Are you setting up your setup right now?
I am. I'm setting up my setup. It's about 10 minutes long. This is a history lesson that one particular fan has asked us to do for a very long time now. She's been asking over and over and over again for it, and I just haven't gotten to it until now. So you're welcome. Here is that. But yeah, let's listen to it, and we'll talk about it afterwards. All right, Schmoeville. So this week's history lesson is it requires a little bit more explanation. It requires a little bit more examination and a little bit more context than a typical history lesson. Typically, I'll give you like a little precursor explaining what's going on, then I'll play the clip and we'll talk about it and all that stuff. But this is a little bit longer of a clip. It goes all the way back to September 19th, 2013, still in the Toad Hop days. And look, I love a good episode that goes off the rails. And this is probably, in my opinion, one of my all-time favorite history lessons or old episodes that I've listened to, because this whole episode was jam-packed. It was full of stuff. We got to see William Bibiani on the episode, as well as Bonnie Somerville co-hosting. And like I said, the episode just goes completely off the rails because Bonnie Somerville, I guess, in cahoots with Mark Ellis, who was not there. He was traveling. The two of them were in cahoots together to sort of make Christian feel as uncomfortable as possible. You'll hear about it right here at the start.
Now, last week, we did one of the most successful versions of the celebrity impression dating game. And our bachelorette was one Bonnie Somerville, and now the co-host for tonight, taking the place of not Tiffany Smith, Mark Ellis. Ken is taking Tiffany's place.
I'm
a girl's got a dream.
That was a worked contest, if you ask me.
It is not. It was not a
No,
work.
it wasn't.
Come on.
She had no idea it was me.
No.
I just don't believe that
It's
for
not
one
true.
second.
Even though he says I have talent, he shouldn't be saying that.
There's some kind of spiritual primal connection that we weren't aware
But
of.
I am excited. This is a dream come true.
To co-host a show? Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. What are you babbling about there?
I just, last week, there's
Don't
obviously
start
some sort of buried...
No, don't start rumors.
I'm not starting
Don't
rumors. I'm just
continue
acknowledging
rumors.
what's already out there. By
There's
the way,
nothing out there.
Dennis Miller was on
Jesus
point
Christ.
last
Dennis
week
Miller
and should have been picked.
Dennis Miller was
Maybe I'm just sour.
You are sour. But look, Dennis Miller was really good.
Dennis Miller was really good. There might have been too many.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's sort of the context of this history lesson. Bonnie Somerville was on the previous episode doing the celebrity impression dating game. But she wasn't the only one in on the joke. Neither was Mark Ellis. Well, you'll hear about Mark Ellis here in a second. But Ken Knapsack was also a part of this joke.
Some television news. You may have noticed there were some cameras in the studio last week for the Schmoes Know Movie podcast. I can reveal here now that, as I suspected, the show, which Johnny Ice will play a promo picture of, is the Harloff and Somerville show. No release date announced.
God.
Rumors
You are an idiot. You know, Ellis is responsible for this.
You know
think
what?
so?
I think, yeah. You don't ever speak up about
Is that
this
our
type
Christmas
of shit.
card?
Yeah, for a little
What?
while ago.
You guys seem rather comfortable there.
You just stuttered.
Yeah, because it came out of nowhere because of you last week, and you do it, and you never open your mouth, but then Ellis cracks a couple jokes here and there,
Christian's
and then
all
of a sudden,
flustered now.
Okay.
I'm surrounded by these rumors, and Ellis is safe in Tempe in a hotel room.
So you're
going to
protect Ellis. Okay,
he's
Did you just put your
drunk
gum
on
on
Chili's
this?
2 beer.
God, you're
I know you don't
still
like my
so
habits. I know.
gross.
I get it.
What?
I didn't hear the ending.
What's that?
To stop the music.
I'm Ken Knapsack, and those were your Schmoes Know headlines brought to you by Magic Hat Brewing Company.
See? That's what he gets.
I'm doing triple duty tonight,
You know why
Johnny.
that is, Johnny? Because he's not a professional. That's exactly why.
Really?
He decides he wants to play little jokes, and then that's what happens.
So we're not going to address it? Okay.
All right. Now,
Fair enough.
So yeah, we don't normally get to see Christian so flustered, but it's pretty hilarious, and Bonnie Somerville was just feeling particularly spicy, even going at it with guest William Bibiani.
Whose life is so pathetic? They're like, I'm going to stop Bill and Ted Free.
I know, really.
Yeah, it's like, I feel like it's a Mike Myers character from like an Austin Powers movie. Like his whole like mission in life is just to stop Bill and Ted Free.
Maybe that's what the movie is about.
God, if you're going to stop sequels, that's not the first one I'd go for.
Which one would you go
I said
for?
if you're going to... Where should I start?
Give me one.
Well, it's already a Doctor Who ripoff.
No, just like all the ripoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, just all the repeat. I mean, it's just like original. I'm sorry, I'm all about original content.
I get it, but
I
look,
totally agree with you.
But
I'm just so
I
sick
think
of
a
it.
lot of people are. But the thing is too, if sequels are done well, we
Really?
eat we eat
Do
them
we need?
up.
Do we need
I would love
any
to see,
more Fast and Furious?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
No, I'm with you, Bonnie.
We need more Fast
I'm
and
with you.
Furious, and we
You're
need more
insane.
Have you
step-up
seen
movies.
five?
You're
Be fair.
insane.
Be fair. Have you seen 5 and 6? Be fair.
No, I'd rather shoot myself in the
I felt
eyeballs.
the same way. This is a different conversation, but I felt the same
I'd
way
rather
going
shoot
into it.
myself in my uterus.
Listen, the Fast and
you would
Furious
like it.
movies and the step-up movies are saving Hollywood from irony right
Who
now.
cares?
They're
You're
wonderful.
talking about
I care.
money.
They're fantastic.
You're only talking about money. You're not talking about
I'm
content.
talking about
Look,
movies that I enjoy watching
wanted to hate
over
it.
and over and over
Sober?
again.
I'm with you. I'm with
Yes,
Viviani
sober.
here.
Yes, because I have taste.
Yeah,
Oh, Deb's fighting words.
Oh,
Deb's fighting words. Oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. I know you did not just roll up in here and say I don't got taste.
I would appreciate you not making fun of my girlfriend.
So yeah, things got a little bit spicy, which is always fun, but things took a turn for the weird and got a little bit awkward and maybe even a little bit too personal.
You need to sing on this show.
Rihanna.
You know, you need to sing on
I
this
do.
show. Bonnie's a great singer, by the way.
It's true. I'm a really good person.
Well, let's not start more rumors.
Let us judge
Can we
that.
get Bonnie some more beer?
Yeah, please. Beer and sake.
This is good beer.
We should have
it is
sake.
good beer.
Can we
Imperial
have-
beer.
Can we get
Official
a sake sponsor?
Magic Hat. Just kidding. That's what I meant.
Magic Hat.
I'm in the past. Johnny Ice. This is why I don't do the reads.
Magic Hat. Wait, Christian, wasn't Magic Hat your old nickname?
It was, but you gave it to me. All right. So.
Oh wait, you're
that's right.
circumcised. I forgot. I don't know that.
Wow.
That was just
Now-
a total rumor. I made that up.
My wife listens
I just
to the
made
show.
that up.
Now you're being an
I
asshole.
just made that up.
All right.
Please, you're right. I'm godmother to your
Yes,
daughter.
I know.
It's like, what did I
is
walk
going
into?
on? Yeah, you are. Like I said.
Magic Hat would be a great nickname.
Anyway,
For clarifying the Christians.
Yes. Yeah. It was. This Christian is not.
I'm not
Christian with
circumcised.
That was a total joke, okay?
Yeah, all right.
Come on, guys. I was kidding.
All right. Anyway,
Bonnie's up past her bedtime. We apologize to the Schmoe
she has
audience.
Yeah. Now Johnny Ice is trying to frantically find that picture again and flash the show. It's been canceled.
Remember how I said that the episode went off the rails? Well, I really did mean it, and Bonnie and Christian weren't the only two that were being flustered by all of this tension inside the studio. Even Ken got a little bit ruffled.
I want to hear what the hell you're going to tell me about where, if I wanted to watch Breaking Bad, what do I do?
Well, this next segment is going to be sponsored by Hulu Plus. That's right. Hulu Plus is the sponsor of this segment, brought to you by this as yet unintroduced
What's going
man
on?
here.
Are you
I
having
don't
a
know.
stroke?
What's going on with you?
I don't know.
You have the suit on.
Call an ambulance.
I can't
If you're
produce.
sick, go to a
and
hospital.
Be on the air at the same time.
want
I'm
him to do
learning
the
this.
reads, Ice?
Yeah.
He was
Yeah.
listening
Holy
to Chris
shit.
Isaac.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Ice! You might as well.
Christian, I think he needs an ambulance.
Yeah, seriously. Said Ken
If
just had
you're
a stroke.
sick, go to a hospital.
Unbelievable.
I'm like Serene Branson on Channel 9 outside here.
You're like that news.
Ah, baby, what the boo?
Exactly.
George R.
I
Biggs.
love
Chris
it.
de Burgh, Lady in Red, just got to Kenny Knapsack.
All right, come on. All right.
So I think at this point you guys get the picture. This is an absolutely fantastic episode, but we're not quite done. Bonnie and Christian constantly going back and forth at each other throughout the entire episode, and it finally came to a head. It finally came to a face-to-face showdown when Christian had just outright had enough.
It takes that whole thing, like it's sort. Everybody's like, you should watch The Wire. Okay, yeah, you should
Wire
watch
is a
The
great
Wire.
show. Wire is a great show.
Why is it a great show?
Wire is a great
Oh,
show.
The Wire is an
That's
amazing
just because
show.
he's from Queens and he can't talk.
It's shot in
No,
Baltimore.
wait, stop for a second.
The Wire.
No, wait a minute.
Wire.
You're from Brooklyn, ballbag.
Wire.
You forget. Where are you from?
I'm from Flatbush.
I'm going to
You're the
take a
only
stop.
white
I gotta
person
take a
in
stop.
Flatbush?
I got to take a stop for a second because I need my crew here for a second.
Oy
Okay.
vey.
I'm bringing it out here because, again, like I said, I was only telling
I
my
have
show I was
video
gonna
of
look at.
this. You want to go there?
You have a video of
You want to
what?
go what?
You
want to go down?
Now, look,
Do you want to go down?
She's been on this
I will
show.
take you down.
Stop. She's been on this show.
I have
Point
video
out,
of this.
You're the one that gave her alcohol before the show
I know
started
I did, but
tonight.
listen, this
It's not about the alcohol.
Stop for a second. Let me finish
Don't
for 1
boss
second.
me. You can't boss
you
me
did
anymore.
it for years. There's a show.
I have video footage of this.
You don't have video of shit. Look, for 2 years we've had this girl on the show. Not once has she ever, until you started doing your nonsense last week.
This is the first time you've ever asked me to be a co-host.
Yeah, but
you didn't, by the way.
Week,
it wasn't you.
No, it wasn't. Yeah, I know, because it
was Josh.
Other text. How come I never co-host before? Because Schmoeville has been egging her on as well. So thanks for that,
Katie's
Schmoeville.
available.
Yeah, see, Schmoeville, thank you for that. So take
Guys,
your video,
Bonnie Somerville just winked
shove
at
it
me.
up your ass.
Okay, you know what? Just move on.
What video?
Hey, Christian, Katie's available right now. I can
Good,
get her
bring
in
her
here
in.
5 minutes.
Bring her in.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll never be on the show together. All right, here we go.
Go ahead, Josh.
Go ahead. Josh, sorry. Josh looks like
Josh,
a kid. Josh looks like a kid in the
Josh,
middle
what
of a
else you
spell.
got?
I don't want
Like when
to
my
come
parents
out.
accidentally got divorced on Halloween, 1994.
Josh.
I'll eat macaroni and cheese
This
in the
entire
bedroom.
segment has been brought to you by a stroke. The entire cast and crew, including me, has had a stroke for the last 10 minutes.
Okay, Josh.
You bring in the wild man, shit goes off the
Wild
rails.
man, what
I
else?
apologize.
Go ahead, buddy.
Well, basically what I'm saying is that we have 2 episodes left, and there is just everybody has a conspiracy theory.
That's right, Josh Macuga. Everybody does have a conspiracy theory, and my theory is that the Schmoes Know feed, the old feed, the classic feed, is absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for listening to this history lesson. And remember, you can find all of these old episodes on the Schmoes Know podcast feed. Not only this podcast feed that you're listening to After Schmoe on right now, but there is an additional feed from the Toad Hop days. Just search for it on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts, and you can check it out. Let's get back to the show.
Do you think if that played out now in Phase 6, do you think some of these guys would be a little bit more embarrassed by that? I feel like it never, ever really gets to those points anymore.
I've thought about that a lot, actually, about the fact that obviously the Schmoes and Collider, Collider is Schmoes now. I mean, so many of them work there. So many of the people that were on that episode legitimately work there now. Macuga, obviously Christian and Mark, and even though Mark wasn't there in that segment, Ken as well. I think because they're so much bigger, maybe they think about things a little bit more. Like they're a little bit more careful or calculated on what they say and what they do. Obviously, they let loose more on Schmoes, but I think even Schmoes is a little bit more calculated. However, I do think when Christian is on the show, I do think he tries to rekindle that old flame, if you know what I mean.
I think it's weird how, and Christian probably doesn't even realize this, but he makes the comparison, After Schmoe is sort of like the Baba Booey to Howard Stern, but Christian is kind of like my Howard Stern, just because I didn't listen to him. So the first time that I ever really listened to a radio show, it was something like Schmoes. That is legitimately my Howard Stern.
Right.
The other thing that's funny about that is the way that Katie Sackhoff is a big deal to people, because they're a fan of her, whether it be on Rebels or Longmire or what have you. The way that Katie Sackhoff is a big deal for being on Schmoes Know, Bonnie Somerville is my Katie Sackhoff.
Really?
because I didn't know who Katie Sackhoff was until everyone told me who she was. But as soon as I saw that Bonnie Somerville was on the Josh Macuga show and that she was on Schmoes, I recognized her immediately because I'm a massive Friends fan, and I knew her as Ross's girlfriend Mona. And right. I've seen her in a couple of other things too, but I recognized her immediately and thought that was really, really cool that she was friends with the show. So I don't know. I just kind of think that that's funny how those experiences are a little bit different. But yeah.
Yeah, it's always interesting going back. And I don't know, man. I'm just so I'm this way about music. I'm always worried about moving forward, and I don't like to live in the past, but I do this segment anyways for Christian. I don't know, dude. I don't know if what they could do to potentially rekindle that and come back to that sort of vibe. I think Christian's trying to make steps towards that direction, but I don't know. We probably just need to talk to him about it, I guess.
I also failed to mention that I was a big fan of hers on the OC. So yeah.
Oh, was she on the OC with me?
She was, yeah. You and her were co-stars together. I think she played
Awesome.
your aunt, if I remember that correctly.
Amazing. I don't remember. It's probably the CTE.
Okay, very good. Yeah, that was a great pick. That was a really, really entertaining history lesson. And do you think Christian is circumcised?
I don't know. There was like the Last Jedi trailer. There was a lot of misdirection going on in that discussion. Another thing we'd probably need to ask him about firsthand. So Christian, are you circumcised? Are you wearing a permanent turtleneck?
Okay. We're going to be talking about episode 305 of the Schmoes Know live show. Ellis was there to host with Joel, Ken, and RB3, and Macuga joined us on the couch and was later at the main table. Jaye Williams, are you ready for your stream of consciousness notes?
I am 100%. For all those people who like to play the Jaye Williams drinking game of how many times I say it, stop making fun of me. These are your Schmoes Know stream of consciousness notes brought to you by SightSoundPod.com. What a great first table. Macuga's skin is the same color. Okay, time out. This is what I wrote down. I'm going to read it word for word. Macuga's skin is the same color as his orange shirt. But I meant it a different way. Anyways, Beardo looks stoned. Ken like Bigfoot. Ken's rants are such a treasure. Even Joelle was annoyed by Macuga's puns. And she's so nice. Oh, we're talking about after church festivities? I used to smoke cigarettes behind the CVS after church. I'm not sure I know what cogent means. Highlight is an amazing sport. I want to be a part of a podcast conversation. First-time rings are strange. I agree with that sentiment. My mom made me buy a class ring. Damn, now I want to know about Ace in high school. He went dark for a moment. People doing high kicks is always hilarious. I'm exhausted from hearing about Macuga's wedding. Not because I'm over it, but because it was so extensive and elaborate, I'm legitimately exhausted. Oh shit, Macuga's wedding had weed. The great mystery. Did D. Griff smoke Janet's weed? And that is your Schmoes Know live show. Stream of consciousness notes brought to you by SightSoundPod.com.
Did David Griffin smoke the devil's relish?
The devil's relish? Never put the devil's relish on a hot dog. Shout out to Janet. Let me know where you're getting that OG Kush from.
We did get the explanation behind Scott Eastwood being at the wedding, but
we did.
The backstory fascinates me even more. So,
agreed.
Did Amanda grow up with Clint Eastwood? Like, what's going on there? Why wasn't Clint Eastwood invited to the wedding? Like, there's just so much more that we could talk about with this, and we didn't get it.
I think if I'm just sort of deducing all of this, I'm assuming that Macuga's wife is from Carmel, and Clint Eastwood was the mayor of Carmel, and therefore his son had to go to high school in Carmel, where she went to high school.
Right.
So that's sort of how I'm piecing together all these dots. Here's the thing that I'm concerned about with this.
Piecing the dots, yeah.
I'm piecing the dots together. Thanks, CT. That one's on you. The question that I have, or the concern that I have, is, so whenever you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend, whoever.
I don't, but thank you.
I know, but whenever someone has a significant other, there's always that old friend. There's always that old friend that's coming around. Maybe they linger a little too long. We've all seen sitcoms when the old friend comes into town of the significant other, and it's a little odd.
I've been that friend.
Yeah, I'm sure you have. So when the old friend is Scott Eastwood, you get a little bit weird. I'm glad that Macuga is man enough and comfortable enough and confident enough of that, but I would never invite the friend, the high school friend, especially the attractive one that's in many movies. I would never invite that person to my wedding. There's no way in hell.
I think Macuga probably thought it was cool. Like, he played it off like, yeah, just another day hanging out with Scott Eastwood. But he probably had the idea to invite Scott Eastwood to his wedding.
It's like the equivalent of buying like a Rolex and wearing it to your wedding. Like, hey, like the Rolex, like the Scott Eastwood over there.
It's like how I'm gonna feel when I invite Macuga to my wedding. Thank you for that.
You got to meet somebody on Tinder first.
That's true. Yeah, right. I don't have a girlfriend. Schmoes Know is my girlfriend. So anyway, are we at all concerned that Macuga is gonna just immediately flip a switch and turn into like dad jokes aren't the word, but is he gonna be the cliche, like making just marriage jokes and everything's gonna be about being married, and like is it gonna go straight to like, oh, she wears the pants in the family, or if you need to learn one thing about marriage is that she's the boss. Like, is he just gonna rattle off all those ridiculous cliches and just be a far less interesting person? Is he gonna start talking more and more about the weather?
This is fascinating and mildly existential because I've been having these sort of existential questions myself lately about not about me, but about people in the Collider space, in the Schmoes Know space. I mean, Ken might as well be a different person. I love him to death, and I think he has been flourishing lately, like legitimately. I just watched Jedi Council before we did this, and he was fantastic. But he's in a relationship with Grace. He did say her name this week, and it just seems like this weight has been lifted off of his shoulders. Which, hey man, I get it. I get it 100%. I feel that way about my dog dying. I'm ready for him to die just so that I won't have half the hair in my house that we do. But Christian is becoming a father for the second time. So I'm thinking to myself, like, is he going to be different? And now Macuga is getting married, and naturally you would think, well, not much is changing, and legitimately that's true. Literally nothing is changing from being in a long-term relationship and being married. But it does different things to people. Like, you stop talking to your friends, you stop hanging out with people, you start wearing sweatpants more often, you take up odd hobbies like podcasting and learning how to sing, and it's just like, what is Macuga gonna do?
That'd be a really interesting conversation. Like 3 months from now, we hear like Macuga is just nowhere to be found on the live show, and Christian and Mark are looking at each other live. Like, Macuga doesn't come around anymore, but obviously he's there in the studio every day because that's also his job amongst his friends. But it'd just be an interesting conversation if he became distant all of a sudden.
What is the hobby that he picks up? To me, it seems like home brewing would be like the go-to thing.
I think anything that I might come up with to answer that question, I could also already imagine him being into that thing. Like, if I wanted to say, oh, he's going to start playing racquetball with the neighbors. Well, Macuga probably already plays racquetball or enjoys it to some extent. So
crocheting, yeah, something like that.
I think everyone needs to keep an eye out for this transition. I wonder when it will come. I'm not worried about someone like Christian. He's already, he was already a father, and he didn't really do that kind of stuff. So I'm not really worried about him so much. But anyway, is Starship Troopers a must-see movie?
No, it's not.
Thank you.
It's a fine movie, but you could go your entire life without seeing it.
I want you to tell me what you think about Cody going extra ham on the lower third text this week. Was it really a lower third? It's a very small bar. Well, if you factor in the half circle, that it makes it a lower third.
It's an industry term. Relax.
We're in the industry.
Hey, can I be completely honest with you?
Yes.
I always forget that this is a thing.
Oh, right.
And
yeah.
My eyes have been trained to not see them. And in fact, I always find out about them later on and pretend like I saw them. Yeah, that was funny. But that's usually the first time I've laughed at it.
Really? So
always. Like they could be photoshopped and I would just be like, okay, I just completely missed that.
Okay, so I'll give you my take.
Sorry, Cody.
I think Cody's doing it too much now. Yeah.
How dare you?
Cody
was supposed to be the only person that was like free of criticism.
That's true.
And you found one way.
I feel like that's Riley. I think that's Riley. I don't know how I could ever criticize Riley, but someone's gonna be like, "Well, you actually said this about him," and no, I'm not saying that to like. I'm not trying to bring Cody down. I just want him to use them sparingly. That way, they're more effective when they're used sparingly. But he pretty much, I think he was on that thing all night. Just anytime someone said anything, he ended up adding another one. And I was just wondering, like, Cody, we think you're funny. It's okay. You don't have to wear us out here. He was doing it a lot. So
is that a result? Is that a result of him maybe just not enjoying the show as much? Like from him in his mind, he's like, "Well, this is a shit show. I better spice it up a little bit with my lower third commentary."
I can't imagine that I hope that doesn't upset him. I mean, the second that they introduced the RB3 cam last year, that was something that was brought up. Like, please don't overdo it. So, or maybe it's just one of those things that sounds worse because it's coming from me, and then you get things like RB3 tweeting out that he appreciates everyone but us, and I don't know. It could be a downward spiral here.
Do you think that that's how they feel about the After Schmoe stream of consciousness notes from Joel? They didn't want to overdo it, so they haven't brought it back at all.
It's only because Mark is hosting. That is all it is. It's because Christian isn't there.
What does SK Plus have to do? I mean, hell, at least give the Schmoedown Rundown guys some love.
No Awesome-tacular was supposed to mean that Ken had more freed up time. But that wasn't the case.
What was this about? I was very fascinated by his reasoning behind this whole thing.
I don't even remember what it was.
It was something like, I was in a queue. I said queue as if I'm from England, and that's how they say I'm in line. He was like next in line for something, and then something else. I was like, I don't know. Was it like to see a movie, or I don't know what they were talking about.
You didn't at all clarify for me what the stuff, like, you just made it worse. Now I really am lost. I have no idea what was going on.
So he was gonna read the news, and he didn't read the news because he had time scheduled to do it, but he was like in line for something, or he was scheduled to do something. It was something like going on air, like he was in a queue to go on air to do something, but something else came up in the middle of it. So his timetable was just thrown off. Like it was almost like he was in line to go on air for something, but I didn't really understand how all that was going on. Can we get some clarification from Collider about what the hell's going on?
Please, because my head is spinning. Now I'm totally lost. I have no recollection of any of that. So
really?
Yeah, I don't at all remember his reasoning. Maybe I checked out. It's like, that's enough, kid. I'm done with this. Like,
we should have talked about this on the behind the scenes, but did you watch the behind the scenes? What the hell's wrong with me? On the Collider portion, did you see the behind the scenes this past week from Comic-Con?
I don't think I did. I think I missed that. I usually watch behind the scenes.
It's great, and you would have loved it because it is just filled with people we've never seen before.
Oh,
who apparently work for Collider. Like Frank, that guy, and some other dude.
Yeah, who the hell is that?
Just some people.
You know,
doing some things.
This has nothing to do with the live show, but
playing tape ball with Thad.
You know who is virtually non-existent in any of the behind-the-scenes stuff? Jonathan Voitko.
Did we talk about this already?
Off air, not on air.
Okay. Is there a picture of him behind the Schmoes, like with his shirt off?
No, with his shirt off. That's Brett.
Oh, is that who that is? Never go full Voitko.
I've just never understood. Like, Voitko has had one of the strangest personas. Like,
what does he do there? What does he do?
He came out and, like, his first match in the Schmoedown was spectacular, and then he continued to do worse and worse, and it was a downward trajectory. I don't even know if he's competing anymore. I don't think he is. But he's been, like, he just disappeared, and for the longest time, I thought he just, like, wasn't working there anymore. And then his name was mentioned once, like, during a TV talk, and I was like, what? Like, he's still there. Why haven't I seen him in anything? Like, he's even non-existent in the behind-the-scenes videos.
Is he the Collider Beardo? Is that what he does?
No.
Does he work the mic? Okay. So, could he be... I haven't seen this person. Could he be like the one guy that works at Collider that just fucking hates his job? Like, he's just...
You've never seen Jonathan Woyko?
I know who he is. I'm just saying. But no, I'm saying I've never seen this person, like the person at Collider that's just like outright hates his job, like tries to leave 5 minutes early and justifies it by like, oh, my watch was fast or something like that. I don't know.
Sounds like Dennis.
It's Dennis is that guy.
Do you know anything about Catholic hymns?
No, Ryan, I don't. My grandmother was Catholic, and I just thought that it was witchcraft and rituals. That's all it was.
Witchcraft and rituals. Yeah, it was kind of like that. I
walk
forgot,
around in a wizard hat.
I forgot that Ellis grew up Catholic, but that He Will Raise You Up on Eagle's Wings is a legit hymn, and it reminded me instantly of elementary school and learning the song in music class because, we went to church every Tuesday, and that was a thing. So that was pretty
Did you smoke
funny.
cigarettes behind the CVS?
No, I did not, but I had a classmate lose his virginity in the basement of the church.
Oh, yeah? You like that? I also have a similar story. Not with me personally, but... Anyways, back to Schmoes Know.
So do you remember when I had that idea of making a documentary on podcasts?
Yeah, I feel like everybody's done that. I legitimately feel like everybody who's legitimately been interested in podcasting has thought this would be a great story to tell. And these guys just did it first.
There's always that angle. Like, if you're a podcaster, you just so badly want the rest of the world to know what podcasting is about. Because we're all like tortured artists. Like, we just want to get the word out. Like, please listen to podcasts. And so I think we've all had that idea. And that was just one of those cases where I was just so jealous that those two guys. Did you write down their names? I forgot.
I can't remember their names, but here's my take on that whole thing. First of all, shout out to Kristen Smith, who literally like pointed out the fact that she said, this seems like a conversation that Ryan and Jay would like to have. And I thought it was hilarious that she said that because we all the time we talk about and get very meta about podcasting, like on our own podcast, on this podcast, on Sight and Sound. We've been known to like get very meta about exploring everything going on with the industry. So I was, of course, enjoying the conversation. The most bizarre thing with this whole aspect is that they are a part of this community that we operate in, and they're obviously successful at it. Why have I never heard of these guys? Ever. I like the name rang a bell. The name is it movie film nerds? What's it?
Comedy movie nerds, or I don't know. Comedy film nerds.
The only reason that rang a bell with me was because I think that our name has been close to theirs on the Podbean like recommended page. So I was just like, oh, I think I recognize those guys. Are you familiar with them at all?
The one on the left, the one that has Justin Theroux's hairline.
The older gentleman.
I recognize.
They might have been the same age. I have no idea.
I recognize him. He was on an episode of Movie Fights.
Okay.
I recognize him from that. But I think, to my knowledge, and again, I need someone out in Schmoeville to point me in the right direction. But to my knowledge, they probably just started as a podcast. I don't know how much they actually do in video form. And if they do, again, I mean if they do, then back to your original question: how have we not heard of them or followed them all of this time? So I definitely need to go check them out, because this was the part of the show that I wish was longer. I mean, I thought this segment was way too short. I wanted more of them in general, but I also wanted more of them talking about podcasting, like their conversation of like discussing their interactions with fans and how weird they can be in a positive way or a negative way. I thought that was it was too short. I really, really wanted them to stick around, but I can go listen to their content, and I'll be happy to do that moving forward. So
I just had a nightmare scenario of thinking to myself, like, hey, maybe we should reach out and just have those conversations on our own. But then I thought about the fact that maybe another podcast would turn us down, and I'd be like, of all the people, you should be the ones that should be sympathetic of this whole thing. But anyways, I'm sorry.
Why were they worried about the copyright of the Catholic hymn, but the Schmoedown can get away with playing any song ever?
I'm convinced that Complex has some sort of licensing agreement, whereas maybe Schmoes Know doesn't, because maybe they fall under separate sort of banners. I don't know. I legitimately don't know the answer to that question. I just made something up.
What have I missed from your notes? Because I think we're gonna very quickly get to the portion of Macuga's wedding, but I don't want to overlook anything because I'm about through with my my notes here.
The only other thing is I still find it fascinating that as involved and ingrained with this community that I am, that I can still sort of find out about things, about weird, I don't know if weird's the right word, but just interesting sort of subplots and interesting sort of just issues going on with the community. Like, I had no idea that there was disgruntled people out there that were frustrated with the title of the Han Solo movie. Like, when I saw it, I was just like, oh, okay, cool. That's what that is. And then I legitimately sympathized with Ken. I was like, why would anybody be upset about this? And then I immediately got frustrated with movie fans, especially the ones that were like, J.J. Abrams, what the hell is he doing on a Star Wars movie?
It's because Star Wars fans can't be happy about anything. Like, is that movie title exciting? No. Is it
Does
great?
it need to be exciting?
No, it doesn't. No. To answer your question, no, it doesn't. It is exactly what's the movie called that stars Iron Man? It's just fucking Iron Man. And that's all you need. And the sequel is just Iron Man 2. It's not interesting, and it doesn't have to be interesting because that title is exactly what it says it is. Cowboys and Aliens. Weird title, but it's exactly what that movie is, and that's what Solo is. We didn't need, like, the Star Wars comic book, Captain Phasma. It's just called Captain Phasma. It's fine. You let you let one thing go, but you don't let the other thing go. Like, just chill. Just chill the fuck out.
Well, I just really appreciated, I don't know, man. Like I said, Ken is a new person. I'm convinced of it, but I appreciate these little nuggets of rants. It's something that you couldn't just embed into every episode. Like, you couldn't just force the segment by any means. It just sort of has to come natural. But I just love his take. How he was, I mean, it was almost like he was just befuddled by the whole thing, like I was. He was just like, "It's fine. Just relax. I don't know what you want." It was
right.
I just appreciated it. I enjoyed it.
Okay. So I hate weddings. I don't like them.
Same.
Everybody around you, they're all happy, and you're supposed to be happy for the other people involved, and it's not my place. It's not
about me. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm not a big wedding guy. I don't like going to them, but let me tell you something. Josh Macuga made me a believer. He made me a believer in love. He made me a believer in the institution of marriage and weddings, because I thought I was going to be annoyed by this conversation in the same way that you're annoyed when you hear other people talk about their weddings. And, you know, it's never really supposed to be a fun, entertaining conversation. But I loved listening to them talk about their wedding because, and they said it on the show, I was thinking this, it sounded just magical. It sounded like a blast. Like, imagine, Jay, what it would be like to be a fly on the wall. Like, look, you're going to go see a schmo, Josh Macuga, get married, and it's gonna be done by Ken Knapsack, and it's gonna be hilarious. And you're gonna look over, and you're gonna be sitting next to Scott Eastwood, and then you're gonna go, and there's gonna be like choreographed dancing and all of your friends. Like, it just sounded like it was the craziest, the biggest party in like one of the world's most beautiful places that I had never even heard of until last week. it sounded so great, and yeah, I was so happy. I couldn't believe that I was happy for Josh Macuga, but I was. And so I really, really, really enjoyed listening to them talk about it, even though it could have just been a disaster of a conversation, at least for me.
I think the thing that I appreciated the most about it was it just seemed so on the nose and on character of Josh Macuga. Like, would you legitimately expect anything less than this showy, elaborate, just over the top? I mean, that all of those words are applicable to Josh Macuga, and I mean them in the best way possible. But of course, that's what his wedding was going to be like. I am just happy that he's found a woman, a wife that can put up with all of that. Like, to wear that tuxedo that he wore, to have the cojones to do that.
Who are you, Ace?
Is just a special thing. Find a woman that will let you dress in a ridiculous tuxedo, and you'll find your wife.
Find a woman with big cojones.
Cojones.
She has to be cool as shit. I mean, she sounds really, really cool and really, really fun.
You like that?
I think that I'm genuinely happy for them.
That's good.
What the hell? What is this salty discharge?
We hate Macuga, typically.
And RB3.
Yeah, what the hell's wrong with RB3? Who's he tweeting that stuff?
You know what sucked about this? There's one thing about this segment, and I hate it in a good way. I am dying to hear more of those horror wedding stories that Ken referenced.
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
That was amazing.
Holy shit!
Can he just do his podcast, just reciting those stories?
Oh my
Can he
god.
get that guy on his podcast?
Ken.
That was a great story.
Ken, if you're listening to this, please ask that friend of yours to host a podcast telling all of those stories. Because that, quick 2 minutes that Ken had when he discussed that, it was by far the most interesting 2 minutes of the entire 2-hour show. I mean, it was the first time I wrote a note in all caps. Holy shit, wedding stories. I'm dying to hear more about that. That's nuts.
How do we feel about the Macuga wedding having an entire weed room? What was your take on this?
Well, you asked me a couple weeks ago, is it always weird for me to hear them talk about marijuana on the Schmoes Know Show? And it is, because it's not what we talk about over here. It's certainly not something that would ever
We have a higher standard.
It's certainly not anything that I would imagine being at a wedding here. That's for
heathens.
Sure. Not that people don't smoke pot here. Sure, plenty of rednecks smoke pot, but no one in their right mind would have weed at a wedding.
You've never been to the weddings I've been to. It's just bizarre more than anything. And of course, I want to know who had partaken in the smoking of the ganj. I think
Ken, Riley.
Did Ken? I don't know about Ken. I could definitely see Riley. Was Finstock there? Yes, Finstock 100%. He had it rolled up in one of those clove cigarillo
I would say
things.
I would say Ken, Riley, and Finstock. I don't know. I don't know if the youngins smoke.
I think D. Griff, coming off of going to seminary, he was feeling rather rebellious. He's been running around with Macuga lately, and I would be willing to bet that Macuga's a bad influence. And he said, "Hey, D. Griff, go over there and get a hit of Janet's weed," and that's why he disappeared for so long.
I think that anyone like Josh Macuga could get me to smoke weed for the first time. You're absolutely right about that.
For the first time? Oh, you're just saying just in general.
If I was D. Griff and I was feeling if I was very conservative on my position with weed, I think if anyone, someone like Josh Macuga could get me to break and smoke for the first time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's just one of those guys, I think. He's wearing that suit. He passes you.
He's that frat guy, that stereotypical frat guy, you know.
Yeah, he passes you that roach, and you hit it like a champ.
I thought a roach was when it was like done and burnt out.
I mean, it is, but you can still smoke them. Smoke them if you got them.
Sounds a little desperate.
Hey,
sounds like a junkie move.
Smoke it if you got it. Would Christian have partaken?
Yeah, definitely.
In the weed.
Definitely.
In Janet's weed.
Yes. Let's play. All right, this week.
You pothead fucker?
Let's play this week's edition of what would Christian Harloff rather do? The question is, would Christian Harloff rather sit at home next to his amoeba baby who can't even see 3 inches in front of her face, or smoke a joint at Josh Macuga's wedding?
Well, he wouldn't even smoke that joint with Snyder that one time. So, I don't know. That's a good question. I'm going to go with the baby. He couldn't even be bothered to go to Macuga's wedding, so I'm going to say the baby.
Well, the game is would he rather, not what would he do. He would pull the good father card. Of course, we know that he would do that, but what would he rather do? That's the genius of the game that I've created.
I think genius. I don't know about that. Yeah, I think he would rather be by the baby. I definitely think he'd rather be by the baby. He doesn't want to be around all those people.
The last final, this really funny line that was just thrown out, and it totally went under the radar. I don't know if anybody else noticed it, but when they started talking about Cody's wedding, someone just threw out there, I think it was Copster, he just said, yeah, it's the same weekend as Justice League. And I cracked
and Punisher.
up. Yeah, exactly. I cracked up at that last night, and then today we found out that Punisher was released that same weekend. So I wonder how many people in that studio are pissed at Cody because of that. Like right now, I guarantee Schnepp RSVP'd no to Cody's wedding if that was the case.
Have Cody and Schnepp ever interacted with each other? I don't think they have.
Oh, man. That's great.
Schnepp totally would have hit that joint. He totally would have hit Janet's joint.
Schnepp's a gangster.
He's a G.
He is. All right. I think that's about it. I'm out of notes. Do you have anything else before we head out of here?
I don't think so, man. I think that's it. It's getting late on our end.
Yeah.
This was one of the rare weeks where I did get to watch Jedi Council before. I don't really have a lot to say other than things keep falling in the set. Ash Crossan is dope, and Ken hosted, and I want to see Ken hosting more, even though everybody's back. Sort of. Well, we didn't talk about Christian. Christian just randomly coming back, randomly showing up on the Thor Ragnarok review. Just no warning, no announcement. For somebody that plans out the elaborate Schmoedown and all of its intertwining storylines, he just kind of eased on back into the office. Didn't want to make a fuss.
So, did anything ever come of them having an interim commissioner? That just hasn't existed, right?
I mean, not to this point. I mean, again, I think it has to be said that even if Christian is quote unquote back, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's back like full on 100%. I'm sure he's gonna do stuff around the office that needs to be done. I don't know what needs to be done around Collider. Like, I'm legitimately saying that. Like, I don't know what goes into the day-to-day there, because no one will tell us, but I don't know what goes into the day-to-day stuff at Collider beyond just being on camera. Like, I just don't know. And I'm sure he's taking care of whatever that is, but I don't think he's back in the full swing of things because he didn't even host Jedi Council. So, I figured if he was back full time, he would have at least done that.
Huge shout out to the entire SK Plus family. Also, a huge shout out to John Roca for hosting TV Talk all of this time while Macuga was out. We referenced it earlier. TV Talk has to be one of the hardest things to keep up with, and you just stepped right up and took over. And it's a great job, man. That's all I got. Jaye Williams, where can the people find you?
You can find me at Jaye Williams, J to the A to the Y to the E on Twitter and Instagram. It's the same for both. Head on over to the Sight and Sound YouTube channel. If you have not subscribed yet, we just broke 800 subscribers, which is crazy to me because I had this crazy goal to do 1,000 subs in a year, and we've got 2 months to do that. So
that was my goal.
Hundreds? No, that was my goal.
No, it wasn't.
100. Yes, it was. It's always been my goal.
Oh my god!
It's always been my goal.
Oh my
Just
God.
settle down over there. So it was. We got 2 months to do it. So if you haven't done it, go ahead and head on over there. Hit the subscribe button. A ton of content, additional content over there. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Shout out to Aunt Donna.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at WhatUpSnell, and you can also find me again on Sight and Sound. Please pick up our fall line. Jay released these fall t-shirts. I'd love to see some of you guys wearing them, so send us your pics if you end up buying those. sightsoundpod.com. That's one of the easiest ways to support us. And did you know that I used to be in a band? Well, I was. And we're putting up all of our music on the YouTube channel right now, the Sight and Sound YouTube channel. And we also put up album commentary, which I thought was pretty nifty. I'm doing all that kind of stuff. Come hang out with Jay and I. Also in the Sight and Sound Facebook group. That link is in the description below. We appreciate all your love and support, guys. See you next week.